All right. Welcome, everybody, to Video Marketing Study Group Office Hours. It is October 19th. So, this is a half-hour session. We typically do these once a month. So, if you're curious, if this is your first time, let us know who you are in the chat. If you've been here several times, of course, you probably know us by now, but let's rock and roll. All right. And that's exactly what I just said. Don't let us know who you are in the chat. Now, I know a lot of you guys do know who we are. I'm Aaron. That's Corey. We do the thing every month. So let's just go ahead and jump into it.
There you go.
Oh, we got the study group too. Always mentioning that we have, if you are here at office hours, there's a really good chance you probably know about the study group, right? But the study group is just an overall place to kind of ask questions, answer people's questions as well. And overall, it's just a great community to learn anything video related in the HubSpot world. All right, so office hours agenda, what we're going to be covering today is mainly some video bootcamp week 3 recap. We're going to go over really kind of the same slides that we did in the bootcamp because we were really shortened yesterday in week 3. I only had about 10 minutes to actually go through video post-production, and I felt like I went through it very quickly. So it's going to be, if you're part of the bootcamp, then this is going to be kind of just a review or a recap essentially. But if you are not part of the bootcamp and you find yourself wanting to be part of that, this is essentially one section of it. So if you like the content here, you might want to be encouraged to sign up for our next bootcamp, which I believe, Corey, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe that's next year, right?
Correct. Yes, that'll be Q1 of next year.
Okay, we don't have any more boot camps for
Not
2023.
for this year. Yeah, so we're kind of done for the kind of November, December holiday seasons for this year. So we'll be back in January.
Awesome. Okay. So yeah, like I mentioned, video post-production is going to be the content for today. We'll talk about a little bit about video hosting platforms as well. And then I have one question from the study group we will touch on and before we go into a Q&A here. All right, so video post-production. This is obviously after you've done all of your prep work for pre-production and you've recorded all your video through production, right? So really the idea here is what do we want to do as soon as we stop recording, right? And the first thing I want to discuss is going to be video editing platforms, right? What platform are you going to utilize to be able to cut all of your footage up? So a lot of different platforms, and we kind of tiered it here in a sense of very beginning level where the learning curve is very low. And then in the same sense, it kind of gauges down into DaVinci Resolve, which is a full-fledged editor. A lot of professional movies and TV shows were cut on that. And Corey is actually a certified trainer of DaVinci Resolve. So we'll go a little bit more into detail here. Soapbox by Wistia, there's Vidyard, and there's Loom. These are all in browser editors. So it's almost a functioning recording and editing all in one, and you can share your video after the fact. It's very basic editors. You can just do certain trims, you can make certain cuts, but overall, it doesn't have the complexities of what you would find in a full-fledged nonlinear editing system. Now, they are really great to get started with video, right? So if you're just on the cusp of learning how to get started with video, these are going to be probably your best friends. Again, they are a very low learning curve to get into it. And with a little bit of playing around and about 10 minutes of just seeing what everything does, you should have a good general idea of how to utilize it. Now, once you use these in-browser editors, you're going to find that they are extremely limited. So if you find yourself just getting started with video and you start using them and you're, let's say, a month in, you might find yourself going, hey, there's limitations to this program and I want to take it to the next level. So we start looking at options like Descript, which is its own platform. There's also Apple iMovie, right? If you're a Mac user, these are going to be entry-level editors that you can make more cuts. You can make more, I guess, overall effects to them, but it's still not going to be fully fledged. Right? So, oh, I think we just had someone join here. Quick mute. There we go. All right. So these editors, again, they're going to be that step up, but they still are lacking a lot of the plugins and a lot of those like really neat features that you would find in an Adobe Premiere, Final Cut, or DaVinci Resolve. They're good in between editors though, because it kind of gets you into the idea that you're into these one of these full-fledged editors, but it still keeps the kind of that learning curve low enough to where they have a tons of tutorials, they have tons of walkthroughs, and you can really understand how they work. But there's still some really cool plugins that you can take advantage of. Then you might be saying, okay, great, that's awesome, but instead of jumping to one of those mid-level editors, I just want to go from a beginning editor to something that's full featured, right? And that's where we're looking at Premiere, we're looking at Final Cut Pro, we're looking at DaVinci Resolve. I personally use Adobe Premiere because it's integrated with all the Adobe products, right? So I'm able to utilize Adobe Premiere and edit all of our videos, but also jump to Photoshop, jump to After Effects, right? Create motion graphics, create templates, and I'm able to import all of that into Adobe Premiere, and it works seamlessly. So you can add tons of different plugins, you can create graphics, you can do really anything you want in these editing platforms, and that's really where you're going to find yourself just lost and, going down wormholes of plugins and features and the whole nine yards. So Corey, you have anything to add to any editing platforms before we move over to basic editing tips?
Yeah, the biggest thing that I would say is that at the end of the day, they are all doing the same thing, right? They are what's referred to as non-linear editors. So they're basically saying you have some footage, you want to make an in point, you want to make an out point, and place it in a timeline. Um, all of them work the same way. Once you can wrap your head around that basic concept, you can learn how to use any of these softwares. Sure, the buttons might move and certain keyboard shortcuts might be a little bit different. Um, but certainly it's very kind of intuitive to if you're working in Final Cut or Premiere or something like that. If you had to edit something in DaVinci, it wouldn't be that different. You can even take DaVinci Resolve and set it in Adobe Premiere shortcuts. So there's really a lot of kind of adapting, and it's really not as difficult as you would think. It's not like learning a whole nother language. It's, just kind of being able to be a little bit more flexible with the editing. But yeah, certainly they are all good options. And just kind of knowing that things like, the soapboxes and the descripts, those are really great, really quick editors for like internal memos or just kind of short things that you're sending out to people. And then you kind of go with the other options when you want to polish things and you kind of upgrade yourself as like, oh, I want better graphics or new templates or whatever. That's when you'll see yourself kind of jumping to that new software.
For sure. All right, now we're going to jump over some basic editing tips here. So really what you should be thinking of as soon as you stop recording, what you need to take those first steps, right? So you're downloading Loom, you're in it, you're going, okay, what do I really want to do here? And so the first things first is we actually in production, when we talk in boot camp, we talk about recording multiple takes, even if you feel like you nailed the first take, right? You always want to have a backup take just in case something happened in that take you really thought was great. Something might have happened where, a motorcycle drove past, you pick up some audio that you didn't want, whatever it may be, you always want to record multiple takes. So we always say use your best take, of course, in editing, but always keep those backups just in case. You don't know what's going to happen down the road. Also trim your edges from start to finish, right? Have you ever watched a video where someone records it and then they send it off and you click play and it's like 3 seconds of them staring at the screen before their little countdown actually started? Always make sure you trim those edges so that way, when you click play, the person starts talking immediately and the viewer is immediately engaged. Also remove unwanted pauses. This is, more important for if you, let's say, are recording, you fumble a sentence and you go back to the top of that sentence, right? You want to make sure you're just cutting those chunks out so there's no weird kind of moments in the actual video. And then the last two things are really, we put asterisks by them because they're mostly to enhance, not distract. And this is graphics and music. It, if it is a talking head video, is it a walkthrough video, whatever video it is, there's a good chance you're going to have some sort of music track. You're going to have some sort of graphics involved as well. So the idea is to never distract from the viewer, right? If you have a voiceover, make sure that that music track is nice and low so that we are still hearing the voiceover with full clarity versus, music that might be drowning someone out and you can't hear them speak. So always, kind of think of graphics and music as an enhancement, not sort of a distraction.
Another just weird thing with music too and things, if your music track is too low, that can also be distracting. Because if
Yeah,
you're just hearing like certain little parts of the beat and people are like, is there music playing? Like you have to make sure that that level is audible enough that it registers as music, but not so loud that you're blocking out anything that the subject is speaking.
right. All right, so switching over to branding, we talked about the importance of branding in our boot camp, but I just want to reiterate some of this stuff here. We talk about a concept called brand affinity marketing, and the concept is basically long-term video strategy where you're creating consistent content, and that way your audience grows over time. At that point, then you have a core audience, and so that way when you publish episodes, you know you're guaranteed to get X amount of views, X amount of just overall what's the word interaction. That's the word I'm looking for. And branding is the best way to really hone in and make sure everything is consistent. So you can see we've added lower thirds, we've added certain graphics, and then the thumbnails also are all themed out, the same color consistency. Overall, you just want a good consistent look to your video series, and that will speak for itself, right? It'll just kind of work its way into the algorithms, into SEO, whatever it may be. It will just essentially work itself as you continue to grow this concept. So branding is very important, not only for your solo videos that are just one-offs on your website, but also for your brand affinity marketing efforts. All right, so next thing I want to talk about is color correction versus color grading. And the big difference, right? A lot of people get these two confused. So the biggest difference is color correction is really taking your shot and correcting the exposure, correcting the contrast, correcting, your highlights and your shadows, making sure that your frame just looks good. That's color correction. Color grading is once you've color corrected it, now you're applying a specific look you want to the video. So think of it, the best example I can always give is Instagram filters or any sort of filters that you're posting photos or videos on, right? You have presets, and so you can apply those presets. That essentially is a color grade. Those are actually referred to as LUTs. And you can download LUT sets and you can apply those preset LUTs on top of your actual video. Some people really like to color grade with a little bit of a saturated look, and then the opposite, right? You also see brands that really love that saturated look. That is another kind of concept of color grading. So that's the biggest difference there. You can see from this image on the screen on the left, we have what's called a lumetri scope. And essentially, it's just gauging how bright and how dark all of your colors on the spectrum are there. And you want to really try to stretch that out. You kind of just want to be touching the top and touching the bottom, but you don't want to be overexposing. Once it's slammed to the bottom, your blacks now have become completely black. The whites have become completely white at the top. So you don't want to completely slam them, but you do want to stretch them so that they're pretty close to, from top to bottom. All right, I'm going to jump over to the next slide here. This is another example of color correction. On the left is the shot directly out of the actual drone. It's very, very desaturated. The contrast is pulled down. Basically, we shoot in a log setting. And what that allows us to do is pull out as much of the coloring as we can, pull out as much of the contrast as we can, and really apply our own look or color grade to the overall image. And you can see on the right, we just pulled up saturation, contrast, and the whole 9 yards there. And then the second shot is the same kind of concept there. It's a little darker and a little bit less contrasty. We just apply a little bit more contrast and brightness to the overall image to make it a finalized picture. Okay, and then the last thing I do want to discuss here before we get over to the questions in the study group is going to be video hosting. A lot of people always ask Corey and I, where do we host our videos? We know YouTube is a big platform, but at the same time, it takes people away from our website when we embed our YouTube videos to our website. They get a related video, and next thing you know, they're on YouTube. They're no longer on our website, and that's not the overall goal with video, right? We want to keep people entertained and keep people within our website and within our brand. So we do start with YouTube. We encourage you to put all of your videos on YouTube, right? It is the second largest search engine in the world, and people are there all the time looking for things. So we highly encourage you to add all of your videos to YouTube, but we also encourage you to look at a video hosting platform like Wistia, like Vidyard, or even Vimeo if you're looking at, depending on what you're looking at. If you are a marketing company, right? Wistia is the perfect option. We utilize Wistia at Nextany because there's a ton of different features that you get out of it that you do not get out of YouTube. You get customized play buttons. You get all of the different CTAs and annotation links. You can add those, but you can customize those and theme those to your brand to make them look a lot better. To where YouTube just has your general annotation links, your general buttons, but overall, you're not going to be able to theme it out and customize it. Wistia also provides a lot more advanced analytics. So you're able to really digest and understand how your video is performing on a better level. And then the biggest thing is hosting within your website, right? If you are putting all your videos on Wistia and then you embed those Wistia codes onto your website and the videos there, you're not going to be redirected to another place like YouTube, right? Now we are staying in our website with Wistia or Vidyard. Vimeo is more of an artistic place to put your videos. Admittedly, I don't know the exact details of the differences of like the compression, but I do know that Vimeo is kind of the favorite when it comes to artists, where they really want to make sure that the quality is as top notch as possible. So if you are an artist, you're not so much into marketing, I don't know why you'd actually be here, but here we are. You probably want to look at something like Vimeo. All right, so we had one question from the study group that was very in line with exactly what we're talking about today, right? Are there any editing platforms that automate subtitles? And the short answer is yes, but it's a little bit of a loaded answer because each editing platform is a little bit different on how you do it. Some editing platforms can automatically generate them. Some you have to manually input and kind of code them out, but there's levels to it. I would say a platform like Descript is the best option because the idea is to edit video through text on Descript. And you put your video in and it automatically transcribes your entire video. Then you can just apply the subtitle button and it'll time it all out automatically. At that point, then you can go through and really just make small edits if you need to the language. But overall, it does an excellent job. Adobe Premiere also does it. It does it automatically as well. So there's a lot of different editing platforms out there that can automate subtitles. Corey, I'm sure you know of several of them, so I'll let you kind of chime in here.
Yeah, I mean, there's at this point, yeah, Premiere, Resolve, a lot of them really do it. Even things like Loom will offer transcription of your videos once you've uploaded it to it. One of the cool things just to mention about Descript is that there are ways, for example, to train the language model using your own voice, and you can read like a script off of words and things like that. And as it hears more of your voice and your sibilance and things like that, it starts to understand what you're saying better. So you get less of those like kind of weird words that like maybe you say it a certain way and it just does not want to spell it correctly. Eventually it'll start to kind of pick up on those things, machine learning, and it'll be a little bit more accurate for you. Whereas things like kind of the way that I used to hack this back in the day was to upload the video to YouTube, right? And then use the auto-generated captions. Those tend not to be as accurate because they aren't it's literally just taking a transcription of the voice. It's not trying to make a model of the voice to listen to.
Right. Yeah, we really find ourselves loving Descript for transcription and subtitles. So definitely check that out. It's also a free platform to get into. There is a paid service for it, but you can download it for free and give it a try. So if that interests you, definitely check it out. We'll go ahead and wrap it up. If you guys make sure to register for next office hours, I believe it's in November at some point. So make sure to register there. Of course, if you're a part of the study group and you have any questions, ask them there and we're happy to answer. And if you're interested in the boot camp, make sure to register for our next upcoming boot camp, which will start at the beginning of next year. If you've lasted this long, thank you so much for hanging out, and we will see you in the next office hours.